Good day everyone, my name is Ruchitana Solomoni and my student ID is A213071. So today I will be presenting about the sexual violence and its impacts on the individuals and society. So first, let us understand what sexual violence means. Sexual violence refers to unwanted sexual act or behaviors that happen without consent. This can include harassment, abuse, grooming, and exploitation. It is a serious issue that affects people emotionally, physically, socially, and also mentally. Next, who is affected by the sexual violence? Sexual violence can happen to anyone, but children and adolescents are especially vulnerable. Victims can be both boys and also girls. In many cases, the abuse is carried out by someone the victim already knows, such as family members, friends, teachers, or trusted adults. So now, why is this issue important? Sexual violence can cause long-term trauma that affects a person throughout their life. It can damage their mental health, emotional well-being, and personal development. Unfortunately, many cases are never reported because victims may feel afraid, ashamed, and unsupported. As we can see in the slide, sexual violence is a serious global and social issue. It has many negative impacts on victims. Firstly, the emotional impacts include anxiety, depression, fear, trauma. The victims may struggle with their emotions and lose confidence in themselves. Secondly, the social impact involves isolation, trust, and difficulty in maintaining relationships. Victims may find it hard to interact with others and feel safe around people. Thirdly, there is an educational impact. Victims may experience poor academic performance, school absentees, and a lack of concentration, and their studies and future opportunities can be greatly affected. Last but not least, there is a physical and safety impact. Victims may suffer injuries, feel unsafe in their environment, and become more vulnerable to future harms. In conclusion, sexual violence is not only the personal issues, but it's also a social problem that affects individual, family, communities. Therefore, it is important for the society to raise awareness, provide support for the victims, and create a safe environment for everyone.
Now I will share some latest statistics about sexual violence involving children and adolescents in Malaysia. According to the Department of Statistics Malaysia or DOSM, sexual violence involving children and adolescents has increased significantly in Malaysia in 2023. The total number of sexual offences involving children increased by 26.5% from 1,239 cases in 2022 to 1,567 cases in 2023. Among all offences, physical sexual assault recorded the highest number of cases, with 1,389 reported cases. Child pornography cases showed the highest increase, rising by 139.3% from 28 to 67 cases. In addition, non-physical sexual assault cases almost doubled from 46 to 91 cases. Overall, sexual crime cases involving children increased by 15.2%. And rape cases were the most commonly reported crime, with 1,500 cases in 2023. This statistic shows that sexual violence among children and adolescents is becoming a more serious issue that requires immediate attention and stronger protection measures. Now let's look at newspaper reports. Newspaper reports in Malaysia shows that sexual violence involving children and teenagers is becoming a more serious issue. Reuters reported that Malaysian police rescued more than 400 children and teenagers from welfare homes connected to abuse cases in 2024. The victims were between 1 and 17 years old and reportedly faced physical and sexual abuse. Malay Mail also reported that child sexual crime in Malaysia now include online grooming, child pornography, and online sexual exploitation. Besides that, New Straits Times also highlighted concern about social media grooming and the lack of awareness among teenagers about online dangers. Overall, these reports show that children and teenagers are facing many risks both offline and online. This situation shows the need for stronger protection laws, better awareness and education programs, and more emotional psychological support for victims.
Hi, my my name is Tishandri Sundramuthi. My student ID is A213939. I'll be explaining about the psychological theories related to sexual violence among childs and adolescents. Firstly, we have social learning theory. Social learning theory explains that behavior is learned through observation, imitation, and reinforcement. Individuals may copy behaviors they frequently see in their environment, especially from family members, peers, media, or authority figures. In the context of sexual violence, children or adolescents exposed to violence, abusive relationships, or sexualized environments may begin to normalize harmful behaviors. For example, repeated exposure to domestic violences or aggressive media may influence unhealthy behaviors in future relationships. This theory highlights the importance of a safe and positive environment in shaping behavior. Secondly, we have attachment theory. Attachment theory explains that early relationships with caregivers influence emotional development, trust, and interpersonal relationships later in life. Children who experience secure attachment usually develop healthy emotional regulation and empathy. However, insecure attachment caused by neglect, abuse, or inconsistent caregiving may affect emotional stability and relationship patterns. This may increase vulnerability to abusive relationships or victimization. Thirdly, we have trauma theory. Trauma theory focuses on the emotional and psychological impact of abuse and traumatic experiences. Sexual violence during childhood or adolescence can lead to trauma responses such as anxiety, depression, PTSD, emotional dysregulation, and low self esteem. Victims may also struggle with trust, fear, and emotional difficulties in future relationships. This theory emphasizes that abuse can have long-term psychological effects on an individual's well-being. Lastly, we have cognitive theory. Cognitive distortion explains how offenders may justify abusive behavior through irrational or distorted beliefs. Offenders may minimize the seriousness of their actions or falsely believe that the victim consented to the abuse. These distorted thoughts reduce feelings of guilt and help maintain harmful behaviors. This theory is important because it helps psychologists understand the thinking patterns behind abusive actions. Thank you.
Moving on, I will be discussing some suggested interventions and supportive programs that can help to prevent and also address the sexual violence. First, under the prevention program, sexual education in school is very important because it teaches the children and teenagers about the concern, personal boundaries, and respect relationship. Cyber safety awareness is also necessary as many cases today involves in online grooming and exploitations through the social media or the digital platforms. Parenting workshops also can help the parents to understand the warning signs and communicate better with their children. In addition, school counseling programs should also provide emotional support as a safe space for the students who may need help. Next, there are many several support services available in our country, Malaysia. One example is the Women's Aid organizations, which is also known as WAO, which provides counseling, shelter, and also support for the victims. And then moving on, we have UNICEF Malaysia, which also works to protect the children's rights and raise awareness for the children's safety. And then another important body in the Ministry of Women, Family and Community Development, which develops the policies and programs to support victims and strengthen their child protection policies. Lastly, government also plays an important role through laws and protective measures. The Sexual Offences Against Children Act 2017 was introduced to be better to protect the children from sexual crimes. Child interview centers can also provide a safer and more comfortable environment for the children during the investigations. In addition, online safety monitoring helps to detect the harmful online activities and reduce the cyber-related abuse. In conclusion, preventing a sexual violence requires cooperation from schools, families, organizations, and the government. Through education, support services, and a stronger protection system, we can create a safer environment for children and society as a whole.
Hello everyone, my name is Tunku Norhana Arisa. My matrix number is A213077. So I will explain some factors that contribute to sexual abuse and societal behavior among children and adolescents. So, first, family environment plays an important role in a child's safety and emotional development. So, children who grow up in an unhealthy environment, such as families with conflicts, neglect, or lack of attention, may become more vulnerable to abuse and emotional problems. So, without proper support from parents or guardians, children may struggle to express their feelings or seek protection when facing dangerous situations. So, in some cases, poor communications between family members may also cause children to keep their problems to themselves instead of asking help from others. So another factor is the influence of social media and in the internet. So nowadays, children and teenagers spend a lot of time online, which increases their exposure to cyberbullying, grooming, and inappropriate consent. Some offenders may take advantage of the online platforms to gain trust and manipulate the young victims. So, continuous exposure to harmful content may also affect their mental health and increases their emotional stress. Furthermore, teenagers often compare themselves with others on social media, which may lower their self-esteem and increase their feelings of sadness or loneliness. So, in addition, mental health such as depression, anxiety, and trauma can increase the risk of suicidal behavior among adolescents. Victims of abuse often experience emotional pain, feeling hopeless, and low self-esteem. If these feelings are ignored for a long period of time, they may lead to self-harm or suicidal thoughts. So, other than um, the experience of emotional pains, academic pressure, social expectation, and bullying may also worsen the emotional stress among teenagers. Lastly, many cases remain hidden because victims are afraid to report what happened to them. Children and teenagers may feel ashamed, scared, or worried that people will blame or not believe them. Some victims are also threatened by offenders, causing them to remain silent. This fear prevents many victims from seeking help and support at an early stage, which can further affect their emotional and psychological well-being.
In conclusion, child sexual abuse and the suicidal behaviors are serious issues that affects not only individuals but also families, communities, and society as a whole. So, based on the statistics and information presented, we can see that many children and adolescents continue to experience abuse, trauma, and emotional suffering. Factors such as family problems, online exposure, and mental health challenges and fear of reporting contribute greatly to the issue. From the psychological perspective, it discussed that theories such as social learning theory, attachment theory, trauma theory, and cognitive theory help us better to understand how abuse affects victims emotionally, mentally, and behaviorally. These theories can also explain how harmful the environment and their experience may influence both victims and also offenders. Therefore, prevention and intervention are extremely important in schools, parents, community organizations, and government, that they have to work together to provide education, emotional support, and safe environment, and a stronger protection systems for the children. Society should also encourage victims to speak up without the fear and shame. Unlimitedly, every child deserves to grow up in a safe, supportive, and loving environment. By raising awareness and taking a collective actions can help us to reduce the child sexual abuse, protect mental well-being, and build a better and healthier future for the younger generation. That's all from us. Thank you.